Hi, I'm Jim Toohey, founder of Aging with Dignity. In this series, we've been talking about 5 wishes, the advance directive that I created back in 1997. It went national in 1998. We're celebrating our 25th anniversary. This is my 5 wishes, the one I filled out for myself and discussed with my wife. 5 wishes helps you plan for and discuss good end-of-life care and how you want to be treated in times of serious illness. I'm with Margaret McGahon, who's a psychotherapist who has helped patients and their family members not only before incidents of dying, but also afterwards, when there's often these sensations of grief and loss and sadness, all normal and healthy. Absolutely. But what could we have done along the way to prevent unnecessary emotional and physical pain? Last week we talked about wish 3 that got into comfort. Wish 4 is more about dignity. It begins with, and I of course have marked up, this is my own, and I've marked it up because I have it very particularized on what I want and what I don't want in terms of my own spiritual. So I wish to have my family and close friends with me when possible, when I'm dying. Mm-hmm. You know, a communication that I want to be accompanied. We often see people isolated, don't we, in times of illness. Then we see the guilt of family members who didn't come, often because they didn't know what to do. What can change? What can we do differently?
Well, I think we can prepare people better. I mean, I think, one of the things that I'm very conscious of is, again, the witnessing of suffering and how hard that is for us, and everybody has their different ways of coping, I think, with this. So the reason why the 5 wishes is wonderful, again, is because it says, this is going to be coming. This is for all of us. And it sort of normalizes it, I think, for people. Right. And says, if you can just bear the tension of your own strong emotions that are going to come, there's a better way to do this. So it's about that kind of talking about it beforehand and saying, look, you don't want to have regrets. You want to do this right, Right.
And I think when you don't have those discussions and you haven't provided guidance, it's hard to talk about these things, of course, mm-hmm. but when you don't do it, it's way worse. Yeah. I think, too, the spiritual aspects of care at the end of life, the focus is on the doctor and the nurse, right, who are treating the individual patient's medical issues, how to administer the IVs and all the feeding tubes and such that can often accompany the dying experience. But what about prayer and what about accompaniment? Oh. How important is that for the person in the bed?
Oh, massively, I think. And prayer, music that's meaningful to people, gentle touch, People have very different tastes, actually, and preferences around touch, things like this. These become a massively important kind of comfort to people. And giving people the space to kind of name those in advance really sort of helps the loved ones to go, okay, I know what I'm doing, and I'm right, taking good care of this person that I love. And it's hard, but I can do it.
Right. And that's in the Wish 4 talks about, I want my favorite music played. I want pictures of loved ones by my bed. Many people, of course, say they want to die in their own homes, and hospice allows that. You can right, get care that's brought into the home. Mm-hmm. I've seen many close friends and loved ones that have had hospice care. It's beautiful. They often refer too late. Right. They wait until there's only a week left, and so many others, though, recognize up front, dying doesn't have to be miserable. Right. It's not just a medical moment. We're not just on the healthcare conveyor belt and have right, to accept everything medicine can throw at my terminal right, illness. Absolutely. And a lot of times the doctors won't say, well, the likelihood of you having any quality of life after this next round of radiation is nil. Right. I just went through that with a friend who had cancer, and they kept treating until mm-hmm, the day before he died.
And the thing that worries me as well on this particular topic, is sometimes a loved one is saying to us, look, I'm done. I don't want any more treatment. And they're trying really hard to communicate this, but family members, because they love them, won't listen. Mm-hmm. So they're not actually hearing the person and what they want. They're too wrapped up in their own love and grief to really listen. Right. And that's something that really worries me, know?
In the chaplaincy in hospitals and hospice that's available, parishes, parish nurse programs, you see the spiritual component where individuals need to make sense that death doesn't have the final word. If people of faith recognize that God created them, loved them into being, and is calling them home, and there is an eternity. For people of faith, we believe this, and so death has lost its sting for Christians. For I'm Catholic, you're Catholic, and I think we recognize that the soul has an eternal aspect born through baptism, and so death isn't the final word. But in our culture, it sure seems like we do everything we can to prolong that life to the point of making people miserable.
Absolutely. And, that's it. We're kind of understanding death as just yet another initiation, just another transition, another meaningful moment in a big life. And when we approach it that way, I think there's a lot of consolation to be found and a lot of beauty. There are beautiful things that occur at the end of life, and people forget about this. And if they're kind of so busy prolonging it, they miss them.
They miss it, and they don't connect it to birth. They have so much in common, that birthing moment. We've done a lot better in helping women have the environment of their choosing and have their pain managed and have their dignity respected. And yet at the end of life, we often see people isolated and alone. And Five Wishes helps you communicate, no, I don't want to be left alone. I want to be accompanied. I want family members with me. That gives family members assurance that the person really needs them and wants their company.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good point to come back to the other point about, for people who can't be at home or do need to be in hospital, we can make those environments homier. I mean, little things, bringing in a blanket from home, certain smells, certain soft music. We can actually create an environment that is more home-like for them if we're focused and ready and prepared.
Five Wishes took off in America because of these wishes 3, 4, and 5 that touch on dignity and how you want to be treated. Next week, we're going to talk about forgiveness and how people want to be remembered, what their loved ones need to know. This is what Five Wishes allows in wish number 5. Join us next week for a discussion about wish number 5.